All right, so this one's going to be very, very interesting. The day after AGI.
And welcome.
Oh, yo, yo.
Welcome, everybody, and welcome to those of you joining us on live stream to this conversation that I have to say I have been looking forward to for months. Was lucky enough to moderate a conversation between Dario Amodei and Demis Hassabis last year in Paris, which I'm afraid got most attention for the fact that you two were squashed on a very small love seat while I sat on an enormous sofa, which was probably my screw up. But I said at that point that this was, for me, like, you know, chairing a conversation between the Beatles and the Rolling Stones. And you have not had a conversation on stage since. So this is, you know, the sequel. The bands get together again. I'm delighted. You need no introduction. The title of our conversation is The Day After AGI, which I think is perhaps slightly getting ahead of ourselves, because we should probably talk about how quickly and easily we will get there. And I want to do a bit of a sort of update on that and then talk about the consequences. So firstly, on the timeline, Dario, you last year in Paris said, we'll have a model that can do everything a human could do at the level of a Nobel laureate across many fields by 26, 27.
Yeah,
We're
right.
in 26. Do you still stand by that time?
Oh, that's very interesting. So here we're going to get our presentation of the moving goalpost. So the goalpost is just going to keep moving. They said that this was going to replace most of the workforce. They said that it was going to do most of the coding as well. We saw that Microsoft is having about 30% of its code produced by AI, and it keeps getting shittier and shittier updates. People are calling them micro slop because of all the slop that they're putting out. And so his answer here is going to be pretty interesting.
Timeline.
So, you know, it's always hard to know exactly when something will happen, but I don't think that's going to turn out to be that far off. So, you know, the mechanism whereby I imagined it would happen is that we would make models that were good at coding and good at AI research, and we would use that to produce the next generation of model and speed it up, to create a loop that
Ooh, let me get that
that we would make models that were good at coding and good at AI research, and we would use that to produce the next generation of model and speed it up.
Oh yeah, models producing models. We've seen what that looks like. Let me just pull up the picture real quick. So this is what you get. This is called model collapse. This is a little too close. This is called model collapse. This is the type of shit that you're gonna get with models, training models. There's very low chances that this is gonna bring anything interesting or anything worth it, honestly.
To create a loop that would increase the speed of model development. We are now, in terms of, you know, the models that write code, I have engineers within Anthropic who say, I don't write any code anymore. I just let them.
Okay, so this is the other thing. Engineers. You won't see junior developers be able to do the same thing with the same tools. Hold on a second.
The model write the code, I edit it, I do the things around it. I think, I don't know, we might be 6 to 12 months away from.
Oh, that's close. That's close. So then again, very, very short sighted. So we saw it with Wes, I think yesterday or the day before, that there was a management of expectation where it used to be autonomous and now it's going to be uh, supervised, right? You're going to need to babysit the model for it to do what it has to do. Now, in 6 to 12 months, allegedly, it's going to replace everything, but only in the hands of senior developers that need to babysit these models. So let's say it works perfectly and it is like that, and it replaces the workforce. What are you going to get when all these senior developers are going to be gone, removed from the workforce, and you don't have anybody with the same type of experience to run these models? Because by default, by the way that they want to implement all this stupid ass shit, they want to remove the natural work ladder, the natural progression that somebody would have inside of their career, being starting off as junior developer, getting experience, being a regular developer, and after a long while or enough experience, being a senior developers. So even if everything works absolutely perfectly, and you get these senior developers that run these models that it can do as much as this fucking moron says that it can do, what are you going to get afterwards when there's no more senior developers to take control of these models? Everything's going to crash immediately. So this, even in their hypothetical scenarios, their fucking happy land scenarios, it doesn't make sense. And they're just counting on you not thinking too much about it.
When the model is doing most, maybe all of what SWEs do end to end. And then it's a question of how fast does that loop close? Not every part of that loop is something that can be sped up by AI, right? There's like chips, there's manufacture of chips, there's training time for the model. So it's, I think there's a lot of uncertainty. It's easy to see how this could take a few years.
If it's so uncertain, if you know there's high uncertainty, why can you proclaim that it's going to be different in 6 to 12 months? It makes no sense.
It's very hard for me to see how it could take longer than that. But if I had to guess, I would guess that this goes faster than people imagine, and that key element.
Faster. But the thing is, we saw ChatGPT, OpenAI, SoftBank, and Oracle are unable were unable to pull enough money to build the amount of data centers that they wanted all at once. So if they're having these big ass hurdles, how is this going to be realized? It's crazy. It is so unlikely.
Of code and increasingly research going faster than we imagine, that's going to be the key driver. It's really hard to predict, again, how much that exponential is going to speed.
Why is it so hard to predict if we saw some progression? We saw what happened before. We saw at what speed it's moving. It is not hard to predict. We can see that there's no positive outcome right here.
This up, but something fast is going to happen.
So you, Demis, were a little more cautious last year. You said a 50% chance of a system that can exhibit all the cognitive capabilities humans can by the end of the decade. Clearly in coding, as Dario says, it's been remarkable. What is your sense of, do you stand by your prediction?
Yes.
And what's changed in the past year?
Yeah, look, I think I'm still on the same kind of timeline. I think there has been remarkable progress, but I think some areas of kind of engineering work, coding, also you could say mathematics, are a little bit easier to see how they would be automated. partly because they're verifiable what the output is. Some areas of natural science are much harder to do than that. You won't necessarily know if the chemical compound you've built or this prediction about physics is correct. You may have to test it experimentally, and that will all take longer. So I also think there are some
Wouldn't it be able to do some models and projections out of that?
capabilities at the moment in terms of like not just solving existing conjectures or existing problems, but actually coming up with the question in the first place or coming up with the theory or the hypothesis. I think that's much, much harder.
Yeah, it's not going to be able to come up with absolutely anything. We saw that the only thing that they're able to do is just take what they have and regurgitate it. They're not going to be able to synthesize the information to provide new insights.
And I think that's the highest level of scientific creativity. And it's not clear. I think we will have those systems. So I don't think it's impossible. But I think there may be one or two missing ingredients. It remains to be seen how, first of all, can this self-improvement loop that we're all working on actually close without a human in the loop? I think there are also risks to that.
It's not possible, absolutely not possible. They're going to have to provide some type of instructions. So this is not
To
feasible.
that kind of system, by the way, which we should discuss, and I'm sure we will. But but that could speed things up if that kind of system does work.
We'll get to the risks in a minute, but one other change I think of the past year has been a kind of change in the pecking order of the race, if you will. This time a year ago, we just had the DeepSeek moment, and everyone was incredibly excited about what happened there. And there was still a sense, that Google DeepMind was kind of lagging OpenAI. I would say that now it's a bit different. I mean, they've declared code red, right? It's been quite a year. So talk me through what specifically you've been surprised by and how well you've done this year, and whether you think, and then I'm going to ask you about the lineup.
Well, look, I think I was always very confident we would get back to sort of the top of the leaderboards and the SOTA type of models across the board. Because I think we've always had like the deepest and broadest research.
You see, that's the thing. There's nothing here. They're just gaming the metrics. They're gaming everything. So it looks like there's intelligence here. There's nothing.
Bench, and it was about kind of marshalling that all together and getting the intensity and focus and the kind of startup mentality back to the whole organization. And it's been a lot of work, and but I think we're still a lot of work to do. But I think we can start seeing the kind of the progress that's been made in both the models with Gemini 3, but also.
Give me a second. Sorry about that.
On the product side with Gemini app increasing market share. So I feel like we're making great progress, but there's a ton more work to do. And we're bringing to bear Google DeepMind's kind of like the engine room of Google, where we're getting used to shipping our models more quickly into the product surfaces.
One question for you, Dario, on this aspect of it, because you're in the process of a new round at an extraordinary valuation too, but you are, unlike them, as let's call it a.
That's some fucking dirty ass setup here. Are they all gonna IPO to fucking absurd numbers?
An independent model maker. And there is, I think, an increasing concern that the independent model makers will not be able to continue for long enough until you get to where the revenues come in. It's made very openly about OpenAI, but talk me through how you think about that, and then we'll get to the AGI itself.
Yeah, I mean, I think how we think about that is, as we've built better and better models, there's been a kind of exponential relationship, not only between how much compute you put into the model and how cognitively capable it is, but between how cognitively capable it is and how much revenue it's able to generate. So our revenue's grown 10x in the last 3 years, from 0 to 100.
Yes, but even rising 10x, they're losing so much money that it just doesn't make sense to run this. and it has no exponential correlation. I mean, if it was the case, they would have gone right away with the biggest expenses that they could. Um, what they did was just a proof of concept. Now they want to do the big, most likely the last data centers. This is going to be a crazy situation here.
100 million in 2023, 100 million to a billion in 2024, and 1 billion to 10 billion in 2025. And so those revenue numbers, I don't know if that curve will literally continue. It would be crazy if it did. But those numbers are starting to get
Are you
not
insane?
too far from the scale of the largest companies in the world. So there's always uncertainty. We're trying to bootstrap this from nothing. It's a crazy thing, but I have confidence that if we're able to produce the best models in the things that we focus on, then I think
In the
things will go.
things, what happened to it be the end all of it? It was supposed to be just the one-stop shop where you had this super intelligent shit, and now it's not even able to do that. So now you have this different goalpost, which is having these different agentic models that are dedicated to do specific tasks. But what the fuck is that? It's just the exact same model with specific instruction or like more context. It's nothing new. It's nothing different. It's not intelligent. Ah, Mr. Stupid asshole.
Well, and I will generally say, I think it's been a good year for both Google and Anthropic, and I think the thing we actually have in common is that they're both kind of companies that are or the research part of the company that are kind of led by researchers who focus on the models, who focus on solving.
Yes. The researcher, and you got what's it called? Meta Fire. What's his name? Okay. All right. So the researcher who says that there's no intelligence because there's no intelligence using this concept, he was let go. It was replaced by Alexander Wang. So, I mean, is it true? Is it because the researchers say? Or you keep only the people that confirm what you want them to say?
Important problems in the world, right? Who have these kind of hard scientific problems as a North Star. And I think those are the kind of companies that are going to succeed going forward. And I think we share that between us.
I'm going to resist the temptation to ask you what will happen to the company.
Who the fuck is that? Oh, Deep Mind. Oh, my bad.
Companies that are not led
Should
by
have known.
researchers.
After a while, you start to recognize the faces of all these pieces of shit.
Because I know you won't answer it. But let's then go on
I haven't
to
seen them much.
The predictions area now. And this, we are supposed to be talking about the day after AI, but let's talk about.
This is beautiful. This is absolutely beautiful. Ah, this makes me so happy. So you see, they've bastardized the term so much. The video is called The Day After AGI because this is the new terminology they want you to use, because now they use AI in absolutely anything. It makes absolutely no sense. But inside of your mind, you already have this association with the terminology artificial intelligence. You expect something that is intelligent. And here, because she's referring to what they now call AGI, but she lived most likely her whole life, the majority of her life, having this concept referred to artificial intelligence, she slipped. Instead of saying AGI, she said AI. And this here, I think it's absolutely beautiful. It is a testament to why they do this stupid ass meeting where you get politicians from all over the world where they don't do these conspiracy theories. No, what they do is that they all follow the same conventions. They all hear the same talks, which is a whole bunch of shit, and they all leave home with the same type of ideas. This place here is just the butthole of the world concentrated for a couple of weeks. So let's hear it again.
The predictions area now, and this we are supposed to be talking about the day after AI, but let's talk about closing the
Fucking shit. This is how gross this whole fucking circus is. This is a bunch of theater.
The odds that you will get models that will close the loop and be able to
Zero.
power themselves, if you will, because that's
Zero.
really the crux for the winner-takes-all threshold approach. Do you still believe that we are
Why the winner takes all? Why is it not democratized if it's supposed to be for the good of humanity?
likely to see that? Or is this going to be much more of a normal technology where followers and catch-up can compete?
Well, look, I definitely don't think it's going to be a normal technology. So, I mean, there are aspects already that, as Dario mentioned, that it's already helping with our coding and some aspects of research. The full closing of the loop, though, I think is an unknown. I mean, I think it's possible to do. You may need AGI itself to be able to do that in some domains. Again, where these domains, you know, where there's more messiness around them.
What do you mean some domain? The G here stands for general. That means all the domains. If it's AGI, it's supposed to do everything. Fuck, man, this is frustrating.
It's not so easy to verify your answer very quickly. There's kind of MP hard domains. So as soon as you start getting more, and you know, I also include, by the way, for AGI, physical AI, robotics working, all of these kind of things, and then you've got, you know, hardware in the loop, that may limit.
Isn't robotics hardware too? Isn't it hardware? Why do you guys? Man, this is somebody who's on the spot, who's just talking out of his asshole right here.
How fast the self-improvement systems can work. But I think in coding and mathematics and these kind of areas, I can definitely see that working. And then the question...
You have to understand that because it is very rigid inside of coding and mathematics. You have these very clearly defined rules, so you can program those rules and have very expected and controlled behavior, which you don't have like in different types of science sphere or areas. So it is normal that a computer is easily able to do computer stuff, but not the other things, right? Nothing surprising here.
The question is more theoretical one, is what is the limit of engineering and maths to solve the natural sciences?
Dario, you last year, I think it was last year that you published Machines of Loving Grace, which was a very, I would say, upbeat essay about the potential that you were going to see unfold. And you were talking about, you know, what was it, a genius of data center.
What? Did the sound cut?
What was it, a genius of data center.
Fucking pieces of shit.
What was it, a genius of data center.
Why did they mute this here? Is it the moon data centers? I don't know if you heard about that, but they're talking about fucking building data centers on the moon to run this, because apparently this would be less expensive. Like, I mean, this is just examples to attest how much a bunch of shit this is. This is all fake. I don't know why they censored this little part here, which country they're referring to, or what kind of data center that was supposed to be. It is unsettling. This is the type of people we're dealing with. What's the point of censoring that?
What was it, a genius of data center.
Fuck you!
Center. I'm told that you are working on an update to this, a new essay. So, you know, wait for it, guys. It's not out yet, but it is coming out. But perhaps you can give us a sort of a sneak preview of what a year later your big take is going to be.
Yes. So
this is these guys, they take time to write those essays, but they're science fiction. They're marketing. They're what would be most ideal for the company's valuation to keep rising. It is not based in anything real.
So, my take has not changed. It has always been my view that, AI is going to be incredibly powerful. I think Demis and I,
Him again. Why did he not say AGI? Why is he talking in the future? Why is he not saying AI right now? Because AI right now is not AI, and everybody grew up with the same idea. AI is artificial intelligence. So that's why they slip up. Why is the video called the day after AGI and they're all saying AI will?
it has always been my view
Fuck
that,
you.
AI is going to be incredibly powerful. I think Demis and I, kind of agree on that. It's just a question of exactly when. And because it's incredibly powerful, it will do all these wonderful things, like the ones I talked about in Machines of Loving Grace. It, will help us cure cancer. It may help us to eradicate tropical diseases. It will help us understand the universe. But that there are these, immense and grave risks that, not that we can't address them. I'm not a doomer, but that, we need to think about them and we need to address them. And I wrote Machines of Loving Grace first. I'd love to give some a sophisticated reason why I wrote that first, but it was just that the positive essay was easier and more fun to write than the negative essay. So, I finally spent some time on vacation and I was able to write an essay about the risks. And even when I'm writing about the risks,
I'm in danger.
I tried, I'm like an optimistic person, right? So even as I'm writing about these risks, I wrote about it in a way that was like, how do we overcome these risks? How do we have a battle plan to fight them? And the way I framed it was, there's this scene from Carl Sagan's Contact, the movie version of it,
Oh,
where
boy.
they kind of discover alien life and.
Do you understand how they see themselves and what they do? So, oh, this is so big. It would be the equivalent to having contact with fucking alien life. Are you fucking dense?
This international panel that's like interviewing, people to be humanity's representative to meet the alien. One of the questions they asked one of the candidates is, if you could ask the aliens any one question, what would it be? And one of the characters says, I would ask, how did you do it? How did you manage to get through this technological adolescence without destroying yourselves? How did you make it through? And ever since I saw it, it was like 20 years ago, I think I saw that movie. It's kind of stuck with me. And that's the frame that I used, which is that, we are knocking on the door of these incredible capabilities, right?
This is marketing, right? So there's a whole bunch of mix-ups, right? You got AI, and everything is AI now, but he's talking about the philosophical AI, the future of AI. And he's bridging a gap so fucking big. That's where all those misunderstandings are. I have another picture for it. Is this right here? All right. So you got, this is what they're presenting, right? Jesus fuck. This is what they're presenting, right? Just step 3, profit. We're knocking on the door of AI, philosophical AI. But these models here, they're not step 1 or step 2. So what the fuck are they on about? Makes no sense. And this is why people get this whole situation mixed up, and they give
The ability
human properties, or the personify these models has nothing. It's nothing real. This guy is a sci-fi nerd. You get these fucking megalomaniacs. This other guy, Peter Thiel, with the Palantir company name, right? Palantir is the Is it with an A? Palantir, Lord of the Rings, is the fucking dark ball that they use to see, this evil wizard uses to see through the land, right? This is the name that they gave to their company. He's talking about first contact as if it was fucking alien technology. We're on the verge of this huge change. Shut the fuck up.
To build basically machines out of sand, right? I think it was inevitable that the instant we started working with fire, but how we handle it is not inevitable. And so I think the next few years we're going to be dealing with, you know, how do we keep these systems under control that are highly autonomous and smarter than any human?
Okay, so this is marketing. This is the projection. They are not highly autonomous. We saw a video yesterday that explained that you're gonna need to babysit the fucking thing. Otherwise, the task that you give it is gonna start failing it very quickly. How fucking so this is just, it's a forum where they're having these discussions, these these high-minded individuals, which are just fucking company CEOs, are having these conversations of where the world is going. But it's not. It's not. This is just a fucking marketing. This is a PR stunt.
How do we make sure
Autonomous. Shut the fuck up, autonomous. It's. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
individuals don't misuse them, right? I have worries about things like bioterrorism. How do we make sure that nation states don't misuse them? That's why I've been so concerned about, you know, the CCP, other authoritarian governments. What are the economic impacts, right? I've talked about.
Like, what's it to you? They're developing these models on their own. They have access to the same information. How are you gonna control the model that they built over there? You make no sense, sir.
Labor displacement a lot. And you know, what haven't we thought of, which in many cases, you know, maybe the hardest thing to deal with at all. So, you know, I'm thinking through how to address those risks. And, you know, for each of these, it's a mixture of things that we individually need to do as leaders of the companies, and that we can do working together. And then there's going to need to be some role for wider societal institutions like the government in addressing all of these. But you
What he's talking about is those silly government subsidies that they're gonna be asking for him, because I don't think that they're gonna want to have this technology be democratized and be controlled and governed by the citizens. If it's supposed to be such a, if it's supposed to have such a great impact on humanity, why are you for-profit corporations handling it? They're so stupid. They're so stupid. You present these ideologies, but if you were to make good by what you say, you wouldn't have these companies at all. Why did ChatGPT start as OpenAI? Because fundamentally, if it was, well, if it, let's say it was artificial intelligence, it's going to have an impact on everybody. So, you know, everybody should have a say on it. But it's not, and they changed the purpose of the company, but they keep the open AI in it. These guys are a bunch of assholes that lie nonstop.
You know, I just feel this urgency that, you know, every day, you know, there's all kinds of crazy stuff going on in the outside world, outside AI, right? But you know, my view is this is happening so fast and is such a crisis, we should be devoting almost all of our effort to thinking about how to get through this.
So I can't decide whether I'm more surprised that you, A, take a vacation, B, when you take a vacation, you think about the risks of AI, and C, that your essay is framed in terms of, are we going to get through the technological adolescence of this technology without destroying ourselves? So my head is slightly spinning, but you then, and I can't wait to read it, but you mentioned several areas that can guide the rest of our conversation. Let's start with jobs. Because you actually have been very outspoken about that. And I think you said that half of entry-level white-collar jobs could be gone within the next 1 to 5 years. But I'm going to turn to you, Demis, because so far, we haven't actually seen any decision.
Yeah, because they've already made those exact same predictions last year and the year before. So where is it happening? It's
Of the
not.
impact on the labor market. Yes, unemployment has ticked up in the US, but all of the kind of economic studies I've looked at and that we've written about suggests that this is overhiring post-pandemic, that it's really not AI-driven. And if anything, people are hiring to build out AI capability. Do you think that this will be, as you know, economists have always argued, that it's not a lump of labor fallacy, that actually there will be new jobs created? Because so far the evidence seems to suggest that.
Yeah. I mean, I think in the near term, that is what will happen, the kind of normal evolution when a breakthrough technology arrives. So some jobs will get disrupted, but I think new, even more valuable, perhaps more meaningful jobs will get created. I think we're
It's the same discourse. There's absolutely nothing new under the sun. It is actually the opposite. People are not using it, and so the value is not there. This is why they're having trouble. They're gonna have trouble to build these next generation of models. If you can't build the big ass data center that you need to throw the most compute at it to be able to replace these entry level workers, what is going to happen then?
going to see this year the beginnings of maybe impacting the junior level, entry level kind of jobs, internships, this type of
I mean, why would that be the case if we see that there's hallucination rate in all the models? The latest models are just as bad. You want something that is going to replace entry level jobs for entry level tasks, but it cannot even do that. It's going to be surveilled by somebody that's going to need to go behind it every single time. It makes no sense.
thing. I think there is some evidence, I can feel that ourselves, maybe like a slowdown in hiring in that. But I think that can be more than compensated by the fact there are these amazing creative tools out there, pretty much available for everyone, almost for free, that if
Yeah, why, if it's so revolutionary, why are you putting out all those different tools that do stupid ass shit that is absolutely useless, pointless, meaningless? Why aren't you just focusing on replacing all these entry level jobs?
I was to talk to a class of undergrads right now, I would be telling them to get really unbelievably proficient with these tools. I think to the extent that even those of us building it, we're so busy building it.
Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Proficient with those tools? You talk about writing, because as far as I know, the whole point of vibe coding is that you don't need to be proficient. You can just talk your way to building an app. So, what the fuck are you talking about? You want people to understand the intricacies of something that is not working as you presented, because if it was working as you presented, we would not need to learn all those stupid intricacies.
It's hard to have also time to really explore the almost the capability overhang even today's models and products have, let alone tomorrow's. And I think that can be maybe better than a traditional internship would have been in terms of you sort of leapfrogging yourself to be useful in a profession. So
Yes, yes, yes. Because as we've seen, companies really are always eager to hire young, inexperienced people. That makes a whole lot of sense.
I think that's what I see happening probably in the next 5 years. Maybe we, again, slightly differ on timescales on that. But I think what happens after AGI arrives, that's a different question. Because I think really...
Oh, 1625. This is the first time that somebody gets it right. The first time somebody says AGI instead of AI. This needs to be celebrated. That was great. Good for you, my guy.
would be in uncharted territory at that point.
Do you think it's going to take longer than you thought last year when you said half of all entry-level white-collar jobs?
I have about the same view. I actually agree with you and with Demis that at the time I made the comment, there was no impact on the labor market. I wasn't saying there was an impact on the labor market at that moment. Now I think maybe we're starting to see just the little beginnings of it, in software and coding. I even see it within Anthropic where, I can look forward. I can kind of look forward to a time where, on the more junior end, and then on the more intermediate end, we actually need less and not more people. And we're thinking about how to deal with that within Anthropic in a sensible way. 1 to 5 years as of 6 months ago, I would stick with that. If you kind of connect this.
Yeah, because it's such a big ballpark, a 1 to 5 year. How stupid is that? With that, you stay on course with the 2030 goalpost that everybody has. 1 to 5 years. Yeah, man, I'm gonna be rich in like 1 to 5 years. I don't know. That is so stupid.
To what I said before, which is, we might have AI that's better than humans at everything in, maybe 1 to 2 years, maybe a little longer than that. Those don't seem to line up. The reason is that there's this lag and there's this replacement thing, right? I know that the labor market is adaptable, right? It's just like, 80% of people used to do farming. Farming got automated, and then they became factory workers and then knowledge workers. So, there is some level of adaptability here as well, right? We should be economically sophisticated about how the labor market works. But my worry is as this exponential keeps compounding, and I don't think it's going to take that long, again, somewhere between a year and 5 years, it will overwhelm our ability to adapt. I think I may be saying the same thing Demis is, just factored out of that difference we have about timelines, which I think ultimately comes down to how fast you close the loop on coding.
And how much confidence do you have that governments get the scale of this and are
Why
beginning to think
governments?
about what policy responses they need to have?
Why policy responses? Why would these company leaders will have a say on that?
I don't think that it's anywhere near enough work going on about this. I'm
Yeah, obviously, because if there was enough work, it would hinder so much the goals that they have. Could you imagine instead of having people living around the data centers paying for the rising electricity costs, if they were to handle that themselves, it would cost them so much. There's a whole bunch of issues like that. Yes, we need policies. We need to put protection for people um, from these companies. But if we were to do it, it would absolutely destroy what they're trying to do. So, and they know that this is not going to happen because they're working actively against it. So, here, just saying the right thing when you know that there's zero chance for it to happen because you're actively working against it is a little gross to me.
That's nasty.
constantly surprised, even when I meet economists at places like this, that they're not more of professional economists, professors thinking about what happens. And not just sort of on the way to AGI, but even if we get all the technical things right that Dario's talking about, and the job displacement is one question, we're all worried about the economics of that, but maybe there are ways to distribute this new product.
You're worried, but I mean, this is not your problem. So why honestly would you be worried? This has nothing to do with you. You want to develop like autonomous AI companies that offer products and services to other autonomous companies. Like the consumers are just gonna disappear out of that. It's gonna be fine. So why this theater?
Productivity, this new wealth more fairly. I don't know if we have the right institutions to do that, but that's what should happen at that point. There should be, we may be in a post-scarcity world, but then there are even...
You see, post scarcity, that is utopia. It's not feasible. It's not gonna happen, and not with the way that the world works right now. You're a bunch of companies rising your valuations through shady fucking business deals, and you're telling me that these same companies who've risen through exploitation and illegal behaviors, they're gonna set up everything for people to be okay afterwards? What do you mean post scarcity? There's false scarcity right now. You think we're gonna live in a post scarcity world? That makes no sense.
The things that keep me up at night, there are even bigger questions than that at that point, to do with meaning and purpose, and a lot of the things that we get from our jobs, not just economically. That's one question, but I think that may be easier to solve, strangely.
This is this is absolutely pointless. People can get fulfillment from other things than just working.
Than what happens to the human condition and humanity as a whole. And I think I'm also optimistic we'll come up with new answers there. We do a lot of things today, from extreme sports to art, that aren't necessarily directly to do with economic gain. So I think we will find meaning, and maybe there'll be even...
Well, that's not true. That's not true, because these are two things that have been like capitalized. There's more capitalism inside of these two things than other things. Fuck. They, are you serious? Bro, what's it called? Masterworks? You can invest fractionally in art. The NFL, just the NFL's revenue surpassed 23 billions. Bro, this makes no sense. We live in the end game of capitalism. These stupid ass examples don't even make sense.
more sort of sophisticated versions of those activities. Plus, I think we'll be exploring the stars, so there'll be all of that to factor in as well for in terms of purpose.
Yeah, exploring, or you're gonna go just to build your fucking data center on the moon.
But I think it's really worth thinking now, even on my timelines of like 5 to 10 years away, that isn't a lot of time before this comes.
How big do you think is the risk of a popular backlash against AI that will...
What do you mean? How big is the risk? There's already backlash right now at this very moment.
somehow kind of cause governments to do what, from your perspective, might be stupid things? Because I'm just thinking back to the era of,
Yeah, from your perspective, might be stupid things. You mean like protect people and protect what we have?
globalization in the 1990s, when there was indeed some displacement of jobs, governments didn't do enough. The public backlash was such that we've ended up sort of where we are now. Do you think that there is a risk that there will be a growing antipathy towards what you are doing and your companies in the kind of body politic?
I think there's definitely a risk. I think that's kind of reasonable. There's fear and there's worries about these things like jobs and livelihoods. I think there's a couple of things that, I mean, it's going to be very complicated the next few years, I think, geopolitically, but also the various factors here. Like, we want to, and we're trying to do this with AlphaFold and our science work and Isomorphic, our spin-out company, solve all disease, cure diseases, come up with new energy sources. I think as a society, it's clear we'd want that. I think maybe the balance of what the industry is doing is not enough balance towards those types of activities. I think we should have a lot more examples. I know Dario agrees with me, of like AlphaFold-like things that help sort of unequivocal good in the world. And I think actually it's incumbent on the industry and all of us leading players to show that more, demonstrate that, not just talk about it, but demonstrate that. But then it's going to come with these other attendant disruptions.
I mean, obviously, if you present some noble goals, um, it seems like not doing it would go against that. But the thing is that this is not going to lead to those goals.
But I think the other issue is the geopolitical competition. There's obviously competition between the companies, but also US and China primarily. So unless there's an international cooperation or understanding around this, which I think would be good actually in terms of things like minimum safety standards for deployment, I think Dario would agree on that as well. I think it's vitally needed. This technology is going to be cross-border. It's going to affect everyone. It's going to affect all of humanity. Actually, Contact is one of my favorite films as well. So funnily enough, I didn't realize it was yours too, Dario. But I think you know, those kind of things need to be worked through, and if we can, maybe it would be good to have a bit of a slightly slower pace than we're currently predicting, even my timelines, so that we can get this right societally. But that would require some coordination.
Okay, so this is all marketing as well. It's just marketing. They're talking about what is present right now as if that would be artificial intelligence, and they present these great capabilities, but it's it's not coming close to that. It's not going to be able to come anywhere close to that. So this is just marketing.
But let's,
I prefer your timelines.
Yes, I think it would be better for many reasons.
That I'll concede.
But Dario, let's turn to this now, because the one thing, since we last spoke in Paris, the geopolitical environment has, if anything, I don't know, complicated, mad, crazy, whatever phrase you want to use. Secondly, the US has a very different approach now towards China. It's a kind of no holds barred, go as fast as we can, but then sell chips to China. And that is it. So you've got a different attitude towards the United States. You've got a very strange relationship between the United States and Europe right now, geopolitically. Against that, I mean, I hear you talk about it would be nice to have a CERN-like organization. I mean, it's a million years from where we are, from the real world. So in the real world, have the geopolitical risks increased? And what, if anything, do you think should be done about that? And the administration seems to be doing the opposite of what you were suggesting.
Yeah, I mean, look, you know, we're just trying to do the best we can to, you know, we're just one company, and we're trying to operate in, you know, the environment that exists, no matter how crazy it is. But, you know, I think at least my policy recommendations haven't changed. That, you know, not selling chips is one of the biggest things we can do to, you know, make sure that we have the time to handle this.
Okay, so this was already put in place. There was a big restriction last year. It was impossible, quote unquote, for China to get access to the proper GPUs to train their models. But they've demonstrated with DeepSeek that you don't need that. You don't need to get the latest chips. And that not having access to these GPUs was not going to affect them producing all of this.
You know, I said before, you know, I prefer Demis's timeline. I wish we had 5 to 10 years, you know, so it's possible he's just right and I'm just wrong, but assume I'm right and it can be done in 1 to 2 years. Why can't we slow down to Demis's timeline?
Well, you could just slow down.
Well, no, but the reason we can't do that is you know, because we have geopolitical adversaries building the same.
That's the argument, but it makes no sense. If everybody had stopped at, I don't know, 100 billion parameters and see what you can do with that and try to improve from that, all right. But they're all trying to throw the most compute at it, and they say it's because of the big China boogeyman that they have to do it, that they have to raise billions of dollars to build these data centers. But it's just a whole bunch of shit.
Technology at a similar pace, it's very hard to have an enforceable agreement where they slow down and we slow down. And so if we can just not sell the chips, then this isn't a question of competition between the US and China. This is a question of competition between me and Demis, which I'm very confident that we can work out.
And what do you make of the logic of the administration, which, as I understand it, is we need to sell them chips because we need to bind them into US supply chains?
So, you know, I think it's a question not just of time scale, but of the significance of the technology, right? If this was telecom or something, then all this stuff about proliferating the U.S. stack and, you know, wanting to build our, you know, chips around the world to make sure that, these random countries in different parts of the world, you know, build data centers that have NVIDIA chips instead of Huawei chips. You know, I think of this more as like, you know, it's a decision. Are we going to, you know, sell nuclear weapons to North Korea, and because that produces some profit for Boeing, where we can say, okay, yeah, these cases were made by Boeing, like the U.S. is winning, like this is great. Like I just, that analogy should just make clear how I see this trade-off. That I just don't think it makes sense.
That was anything but clear.
And we've done a lot of more aggressive stuff, towards China and other players that I think is much less effective than this one measure.
One more area from me, and then I hope we'll have time for a question or two. The other area of potential risk that doomers worry about is a kind of all-powerful, malign AI. And I think you've both been somewhat skeptical of the doomer approach. But in the last year, we have seen, these models showing themselves to be capable of deception, duplicity.
This is also marketing.
Do you think differently about that risk now than you did a year ago? And is there...
Because if you say that this model is trying to replicate itself somewhere else, and that it's trying to blackmail the researchers, I mean, you're giving it more power than it really has. It absolutely makes no sense. So before he said that, they have to scale the compute, they have to scale the training, they have to scale everything. So how come you would need $100 billion to train this new model, but it's going to be able to replicate itself on a single GPU on a different computer? Like, shut the fuck up. It doesn't make sense. It is so evident, so transparent. It doesn't have these capabilities. This is marketing.
Something about the way the models are evolving that we should put a little bit more concern on that.
Yeah, I mean, since the beginning of Anthropic, we've kind of...
And honestly, if it was evolving at all, just even a little bit, you would not need to retrain new models and have these different versions.
Thought about this risk. I mean, our research at the beginning of it was very theoretical, right? We pioneered this idea of mechanistic interpretability, which is looking inside the model and trying to understand, looking inside its brain.
You can't. Okay, we know that all these researchers, they have this very funny meme called the Shogot. So this is a H.P. Lovecraft monster, and this is the model before being trained, and this is the exact same monster with just a little face mask on. So this is a way for them to express the fact that they do not understand what is behind it. They have no clue what's inside. You can also, this is also referred as the black box. So AI black box, this is the same exact concept. So inside of it, you have the computation, what they would like you to believe the computation or the reasoning, but it's just mathematical algorithms inside of it, but they can't see inside of it, so that's why they refer to it as a black box. AI's mysterious black box problem. So what he's saying here is in immediate contradiction with anything that has been presented in the past by any researcher. So, they're lying. They're always lying. They're always saying shit that it's not based in reality. You shouldn't listen to them.
Interpretability, which is looking inside the model and trying to understand, looking inside its brain, trying to understand why it does what it does. As it, as human neuroscientists, which we actually both have background in, try to understand the brain. And I think as time has gone on, we've increasingly documented the bad behaviors of the models when they emerge, and are now working on trying to address them with mechanistic interpretation.
Yes, when they emerge. So this is the part of the Shogat. So here this is reinforced learning human feedback. So it's not even learning on its own. Afterwards, it has to be aligned by a person. And as we've seen in the past, they pay people in developing countries, notably Kenya, very cheaply. From what we heard, it was about $1, $1.50 to $2 an hour for them to be exposed to gore, to sexual assault, to bestiality, to all those things. So they have to say this is good, this is not good, and this is what is uh, supposed to be the autonomous, the magical learning. So the, it pisses me off.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Try to understand the brain. And I think as time has gone on, we've increasingly documented the bad behaviors of the models when they.
Yeah, how can you say that with a fucking smiley face? There's a whole bunch of people having cyberpsychosis, committing suicide. Yeah, so this is documented. Okay, you noted the times that it happened. So what? These machines are made to keep you engaged, to keep you there talking with the model. So naturally it's going to create these feedback loops. So it is possible for people to keep having cyberpsychosis. It is possible for people to keep being subjected to these issues.
They emerge and are now working on trying to address them with mechanistic interpretability.
Yes, working to address it. Okay, so you got a couple of people doing that. Well, you have hundreds of people trying to rush the new version or the new mechanic to market. The unbalance here is atrocious.
So I think I've always been concerned about these risks. I've talked to Demis many times. I think he has also been concerned about these risks. I think I have definitely been, and I would guess Demis as well, although I'll let him speak for himself, skeptical of doomerism, which is, we're doomed, there's nothing we can do, or this is the most likely outcome. I think this is a risk. This is a risk that if we all work together, we can address. We can learn through science to properly, control and direct these creations that we're building.
Impossible, because of the fact, I think I'm just gonna keep the fucking picture open, because of the concept, the way that it works. By default, this is gonna happen.
But if we build them poorly, if we go, if we're all racing and we go so fast that there's no guardrails, then I think there is risk of something.
It doesn't even matter if there's guardrails. We saw researchers were able to leak Google Calendar data with hidden prompt information. So no matter what you put around it, because of the way that it works right now, unless you change fundamentally what it is people are going to be able to bypass that.
Going wrong.
So I'm going to give you a chance to answer that in the context of a slightly broader question, which is, over the past year, have you grown more confident of the upside potential of the technology, science, all of the areas that you have talked about a lot, or are you more worried about the risks that we've been discussing?
They talk about the upsides, but I mean, there were still the same upsides that were there before. Nothing has been materialized. Now they're shoving out ChatGPT healthcare and Cloud Health as well. there's no new shit. You know, they're just gonna read what you have and give you information based on it. It's it's not gonna be revolutionary.
Azani, I've been working on this for 20 plus years, so we already knew. Look, the reason I've spent my whole career on AI is the upsides of solving basically the ultimate tool for science.
Yeah, if it
And
was
understanding
AI.
the universe around us. I've sort of been obsessed with that since a kid. And
Yeah, do you understand the universe? Were you able to query this model that you're working it with? You understand that there's nothing new under the sun with it.
and building AI is should be the ultimate tool for that if we do it in the right way. The risks also we've been thinking about.
It would be, but it's not gonna happen. He knows it. He's mixing up the hypothetical, the philosophical aspect of AI with what they have here, and make you go through the hoops inside of your mind. Just, oh yeah, we got to the last step right here.
Since the start, at least the start of DeepMind 15 years ago. And we kind of sort of foresaw that if you got the upsides, it's a dual purpose technology. So it could be repurposed by, say, bad actors for harmful ends. So we've needed to think about that all the way through. But I'm a big believer in human ingenuity. But the question is having the time and the focus and all the best minds collaborating on it to solve these problems. I'm sure if we had that, we would solve the technical risk problem.
Yes, if it was a tool for humanity, everybody would be working together and we would all have access to the same shit. But these are corporations working on trying to sell you a stupid ass shit that is absolutely pointless.
It may be we don't have that, and then that will introduce risk because it'll be fragmented, there'll be different projects and people will be racing each other. Then it's much harder to make sure, these systems that we produce will be technically safe. But I feel like that's a very tractable problem if we have the time.
If you have time
and space.
I want to make sure there's one question. Gentlemen, keep it very short because we've got literally 2 minutes.
Thanks for, hello?
Yeah, no, speak.
Thanks very much. I'm Philip, co-founder of Star Cloud Building Data Centers in Space. I wanted to ask a slightly philosophical.
Oh, did you hear that? Those fucking pesky data centers in space.
Philip, co-founder of Star Cloud Building Data Centers in Space. I wanted to ask a slightly philosophical question. The sort of strongest argument for doomerism to me is the Fermi paradox, the idea that we don't.
Also, all these people are never gonna ask any real question to these guys.
Intelligent life in our galaxy. I was wondering if you guys have any thoughts.
Yeah, I've thought a lot about that. That can't be the reason because we should see all the AIs that have. So just for everyone knows, the idea is, well, it's sort of unclear why that would happen, right? So if the reason there's a Fermi paradox, there are no aliens because they get taken out by their own technology, we should be seeing paper clips coming towards us from some part of the galaxy, and apparently we don't. We don't see any structures, Dyson spheres, nothing.
Well, he says that, but I mean, these are all our conception of what it would look like in space if there was ever an AI, but could be absolutely different. I mean, it could be something that we can't detect, so it's just silly here.
Whether they're AI or natural or sort of biological. So to me, there has to be a different answer to Fermi paradox. I have my own theories about that, but it's out of scope for the next minute. But I just feel like my feeling is that we're past the great filter. It was probably multicellular life, if I would have to guess. It was incredibly hard for biology to evolve that. So we're on that.
I'm not there with him. I don't think so.
There isn't a comfort of like what's going to happen next. I think it's for us to write as humanity what's going to happen next.
This could be a great discussion, but it is out of scope for the next 36 seconds. But what isn't, 15 seconds each. When we meet again, I hope next year, the three of us, which I would love, what will...
Yeah, with the same goalposts moving and these fucking ballpark. Oh yeah, I think we're gonna get there in the next 1 to 20 years.
have changed by then?
I think the biggest thing to watch is this issue of AI systems, building AI systems. How
this is going to lead to model collapse, and we saw how gross model collapse is. this is a good example of it. So I'm sure this is gonna go absolutely great.
That goes, whether that goes one way or another, that will determine, whether it's a few more years until we get there, or if we have, if we have wonders and a great emergency in front of us that we have to face.
AI systems, building AI systems.
I agree on that, so we're keeping close touch about that. But also, I think
You see, they keep in close touch. Why? Because they have to have the same discourse. They know the same things as anybody else that takes the time to look into it would find out. They're aware because they're leading these companies. How could they not be aware? They know. So they got to keep in touch because they need to coordinate what they say. Because we saw these are the type of people that all like to hang out together.
outside of that, I think there are other interesting ideas being researched, like world models, continual learning. These are the things I think that will need to be cracked if self-improvement doesn't sort of deliver the goods on its own.
Oh, if self-improvement doesn't deliver the goods, I mean, by default, self-improvement is making it better. So how could it not do that? It's because it's not self-improvement.
Then we'll need these other things to work. And then I think things like robotics may have its sort of breakout moment.
But maybe.
Yeah, but robotics and artificial intelligence doesn't have a automatic correlation together.
On the basis of what you've just said, we should all be hoping that it does take you a little bit longer, and indeed everybody else, to give us a bit
I would prefer that. I think that would be better for the world.
Well, you guys could do something about that. Thank you both very much.
That was a gross laugh.